Here, good to have the understanding that we have. Makes it makes life easier. You know, I always thought about the word disease. Mm-hmm. If you look at the word disease, it's dis-ease. And
yeah, you're right.
so we are not diseased. We are at ease in our understanding. It sounds like either Patty or Alan has come in.
I heard the garage door. Patty's here.
Oh, okay. So I'll get this pulled up so that I don't it doesn't mess up on me in the middle of it. Good to see everyone coming on, and we've been different ones wrote me through the week. Last weekend I had some things going on. I just couldn't be here. Those things are finished and over now, and it wasn't anything that was serious, but I just couldn't be here last week. So we're back this week. We talked on the cycle of fear. We talked on the cycle of fear, and then from fear, wisdom, and then perfect love. So we are in that cycle, and the same way with every other cycle. It keeps going around and around. You fall into that cycle, and you come into something that you don't know about, and there's a little bit of fear about it, and then you gain the wisdom on it, and then you move into perfect love, or you move into how to handle that situation, and you just keep running that cycle in your life. So it's not like I used to be fearful, and now I've overcome my fearfulness through wisdom, and then I got beyond wisdom. I'm just perfect love. Well, I'm all three, and I continually run that cycle of coming to that perfect love and understanding. So we've been talking on that. We've been talking on discussing for several months now, over a year actually, the change of the age, the universal soul change, the cycles that the Spirit brings into the earth in order to set in order new attributes to come out of humanity. And today we're gonna talk on the angelic atmosphere that stirs things and brings us to an awareness of our presence. It brings you into the present, but it has to, in order for you to get out of the old ruts, the old life, the old ages, you've got to go through some things. And so we're going to talk on that a little bit today, and just the cycles that we're in and what we've seen happen and what's going on right now. And before I get started, many people have written asking for prayer. Sounds like many places across the world, the whole pandemic thing is, the governments are really cracking down on it, and they're trying to give all kinds of mandates, and I know there are people dying from it. There's no doubt in my mind. It's been a bio-warfare. It was put out by man. This is not a virus that came from bacteria. It came from genetics. Man created it. And so they're having a tough time winning the war that was started, and this was used upon us. So be in prayer for those across the world that are going through that right now, that tightening grip, which is one of the things that's happening here. And so where my daughter works in Virginia, of course, they're going through the whole, Virginia is a hotbed for the whole CRT, critical race theory, and the parents are just literally steaming over all of the incorrect and untruths that lay within all that, and then they turn around and try to teach it to the children. So where my daughter is at there in Virginia, they've had alerts and lockdowns. Of course, she's a manager in a hospital over the surgical floor, and they're telling them to prepare themselves for all kinds of things that could start happening any moment that has to do with violence and internal war, so to speak. So be in prayer for them. Be in prayer for those that have asked across the world. There's so many. If I started naming it all off, that would take up the whole time. Be in prayer. Send your energy of love, your energy of healing. Keep that vibration out there. Your vibration is what is making things better and bringing things to order. So we've been discussing these things. The angelic atmosphere stirs things, brings us to an awareness of our presence. It brings us up to date. We took notice over the last year of many cycles brought on by the orbits of the heavens. We know that there have been cycles that have come, and we see them. They're continually moving in the earth, in our personal lives, many cycles. We took notice of many cycles brought on by the orbits of the heavens, the characters of the zodiac, exactly how they line up, which I've been looking at something that just went on here in October in the heavens, and they call it the three monsters have come back together again, and it's Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. And when these three come together in an alignment with the sun, very strong vibrations of disorder and chaos. And so I've been watching that, and I'll probably mention some things on it as I read through it and see more and more about what it's talking about. And all it is, some people say, well, you believe that the planets can do all that? No, but I believe the vibration coming off the planets can do all that. And they do have a sound vibration going throughout the universe. You can go into science and astrology, and you can listen to it. You can hear the sounds of the universe. And so those vibrations bring on different things as they match up. So we have that, the characters of the zodiac, the movement of the spirit in the earth is a great thing that's happening. The church in the wilderness, we've seen that cycle. We've seen the cycles of the zodiac. We've seen the cycles of the orbits in the heavens. We've seen the cycles of the church in the wilderness, the church ages. We've seen the cycle of 7 messengers, and Brother Branham told us when you come to that last messenger, everything changes. That cycle's finished. And then out of the ages, we've seen the cycle. Remember back some time ago, we went into where Brother Branham said, out of the church ages come the seals and the trumpets and the thunders and the plagues, and all of that comes into humanity. And we see this cycle, and it runs continually in humanity to bring us to the things that we need to come to. So we saw the cycles. I'm talking about all of those cycles in the atmosphere, in the heavens, in the earth. And we also seen the cycles of darkness, Lucifer, and how Lucifer cycled into the serpent and then into the devil, and through the process of Satan, the red dragon, the great whore, the 4 death messengers, the apocalypse, which we've gone through and talked about, that whole cycle that's going on all around us right now. And we've seen the cycle of the ending of the world, how the world ended and came out into a new cycle, into a new day. So we've been watching these cycles. We've been going over them. We've been talking about them for over a year now. If you're on here and you're new, and this kind of sets you back in a way, like gee, I don't quite understand where he's coming from, go back, and it's on our website, spiritualenergy.net, and you can go back a year and a half, and there's not that many fellowships. We only do one a week normally. So you can go back and go through those, and it'll catch you up to date to where you can understand what we're talking about. So we've seen those cycles of Lucifer. We've seen those cycles of the heavens, the zodiac, the church ages, the seals, the trumpets, the thunders, the plagues. We've seen all of those cycles rolling through, and the cycles of Lucifer, and we saw the cycle of resurrection. If you remember, some time back, we went through the cycle of resurrection, and how that there was 4 life messengers, and then when those 4 life messengers come on the scene, which is justification, sanctification, restoration of gifts, and then the Holy Spirit himself moving into the earth, the Word himself, and taking all of this into resurrection. We've seen that cycle, the 4 life messengers. We've seen the cycle of the dissension of the saints, how that they coming down through a horizontal rapture, so to speak, a dissension coming through humanity as we all continue to descend and descend and descend from theophany into earth, into humanity. So we've seen that dissension of saints. We've seen the shout, the voice, and the trumpet. We went through that. We saw what that is and how that it works in a cycle within us, and it goes on all the time. You get a message. The voice of the resurrection begins to bring you up to date in that understanding and in that enlightenment. And the trumpet sounds, which the trumpet is just the manifestation or the overcoming. A trumpet is a signature or a sign of war, and you overcome all of those other things that were in you. And so you go through the shout, the voice, and the trumpet, and you keep going back through that. Then we went through the body change, the ascension, the crowning. You remember all those? How that we have come through the body change. There's been a soul change now that we've looked at. There's been a body change that we looked at. There's been an ascension or a rising of consciousness and awareness in everything that we're doing. And then there's the crowning, which we went into that dimensional crowning, and we crowned the sonship in the cloud. And when we crowned that sonship, we came back into the earth to manifest a new day, which is the Father. But we went through the crowning, the wedding supper, the millennium, the white throne. The millennium is just the rest that we've come to in this understanding. And the white throne, we come to the new heaven, new earth. And the ending of all those things in that old cycle of church, or church in the wilderness. There was church, bride, wife, male, female, marriage. All of that was that whole cycle of the church ages. So we see all of that happening. And then in Matthew 22, we caught the understanding of a new cycle coming into the earth. And we talked about Jesus in Matthew 22 and how that he talked about the Pharisees asked him, if you remember, there was this woman and she married a man, and this man had 6 brothers, so there was 7 brothers, and the first one died. She was passed to the next, and she was passed down through 7 men, which is the cycle of the 7 church ages. And then they said, and in the end, all 7 brothers died, and in the end, the woman died also. So that was all over with. So then in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be? And Jesus said, you do err, not understanding the new cycle is coming. Because in the new cycle, in the resurrection age, the age of the angelic movement, and the mixture that will change out humanity, there's not going to be any marriage or given in marriage. We're not in that cycle anymore. It's not that we're not married. It's not that we're not Christ. It's not that we're not one with Him, but it is that we're just not in the cycle any longer. We're in another cycle, and that cycle is the resurrection age. Now let's look at what this movement of the Spirit to unite the angelic and the human attributes together, because that's what this age is about. He said those that are in the resurrection, they'll neither marry nor given in marriage. And he said, but they should be as the angels. And so we see an angelic power coming in to humanity after we go through the shout, voice, trumpet, after we go through the body change and the rapture and the wedding supper, and after we come through all those things, done the crowning and come out on the other side, it's a whole brand new age, and it's an angelic atmosphere coming in to this human attribute, and together bringing us one in humanity with heaven and earth, or with angel and human. So we saw many thoughts of Paul and Peter and how they saw Jesus entering humanity. You read that in Hebrews the 2nd chapter, and in Hebrews the 12th chapter, and in many places. You saw how Jesus first entered humanity in a lower state than angels, or in a state of humanity that didn't yet have these angelic powers emanating or being a part of them, or being a mix. Hadn't yet entered that resurrection age. They saw Jesus entering humanity lower than the angels, and then seen Him rising higher in understanding than the angels. Paul said that. It said he went through his human stint, so to speak, and then he was raised up higher than the angels, or he took on an angelic power and a human power and brought those two together, which raised him higher than just an angelic power. And that's where we're entering into now, is this, we were lower than the angels in humanity, and then we begin to mix that angelic power of the resurrection in with us, and now we're moving, because we have a human side and a humanity working in us, plus the angelic power that's within us, the angelic authority, the atmosphere. It puts us in a higher position than we would have been if we'd just been angels. So we saw many thoughts. Peter, how they saw Jesus entering humanity lower than the angels, rising higher in understanding than angels, and how He did it by first taking on humanity. Dropped Himself lower, started taking on humanity, and then we seen how that once He did it, He took on humanity, and then moving to the angelic age, or the angelic power being mixed in with humanity, becoming greater than angels by themselves. And we saw how Jesus first had to come through the redemption process and bring the attributes of what humanity needed in order to mix itself into a new mix. The attributes that it needed were intercession, propitiation, mediation, blood covenants. All of these things, humanity need to come through all of that suffering, so to speak, and Jesus needed to come through all that in order to be able to match up and take on angelic authority and an angelic atmosphere and become greater than just humanity. Remember, before we were theophany, Then we mixed theophany and humanity together, came through that mind of theophany, carnal mind, and spiritual mind, one mind, just a progression, a cycle. And we're doing the same thing now with the angelic atmosphere. And so we've seen how Jesus, and I even put something out last night. I haven't looked to see exactly what I haven't looked to see how people felt about it yet. But I said that, can you believe that Jesus needed to be redeemed? And then I said, I put the quote from the Future Home where Brother Branham said Jesus took on a part of the earth and began to wear it. And so he was redeeming himself. And through redeeming himself, he then brought on redemption for the entire human race. So when I saw that, I was reading Future Home, just going through things, and I thought, wow, this is nice. So it tells me that I'm not separate from Jesus. Jesus is not this all-glorious power that's just greater than me. He became sin, that we might become his righteousness. And, I could say it the other way around if I wanted to. I became sin that he might become righteous. Mm-hmm. Because when he took on intercession, redemption, propitiation, and all these great things, when he took those on, he could only take those on after I missed the mark. Then he could take them on. So I became sin that he could become righteous. And Paul makes that statement the other way around, but there's no difference really. So we see this whole move from mediation, intercession, all these things. It's finished up, and we moved into the angelic age. It's good to see you, Alan.
Good to be seen.
We are now moving beyond those redemption processes of humanity. We will always carry the attribute or the atmosphere that those processes created for us. We'll always carry them, but we're moving out of that whole redemption process at the opening of the seals. In the breach and in Souls in Prison and many other places, Brother Branham was very clear that that was over. And so we're moving out of those processes and redemption processes of humanity and stepping into the power of an angelic atmosphere mixed in with humanity, which, there was a song used to come out and it said, angels never knew the joy that's mine, for the blood has never washed their sins away. Well, that was every bit true till this age. And now angelic authority and power and atmosphere has moved into the human race, and they are and have the feeling and the understanding of the redemption process, because now they are a part of humanity which was redeemed. And so we see this moving through. It brings us to a humbleness. It brings us to an understanding. Through reconciliation, Paul was very clear. Through reconciliation, the sanctifier and the sanctified are one. So when we understand that, we know that if there's a Christ, it's me. If there is a great spirit, it's me. If there is a redemption process, I brought it on. I fulfilled it. And now I am partaking of it. If there is an angelic age, it's me. The sanctifier and the sanctified are one now. So I want to open for your observation today what the Spirit is now doing in its movement in the earth. I want to look at that today. Many of us understand and we believe there's a mixture of angelic atmosphere and humanity now. And there's a mixture beyond redemption now. All these things are happening. And I was at the farm for a little while and was walking and thinking. Nice cool day, in the cool of the day. Adam was walking in the garden. Well, in the cool of the day, Don was walking in the farm. And it was cold, rainy, wet. And as I was walking, these things began to raise up in my awareness and in my conscience. And I began to notice that as the angelic mixture moves in, it's a great stirring of the water. So I titled this "The Stirring of Angels in the Water," and I wanted to read this. And so I seen this, and the angels touching the aquatic world, aquatic just being the water world, and that's what we are, whether you know you're 80-some% water. And we are the aquatic world, and I wanted to talk about the atmosphere of angels touching the water. So we'll go over to John, the 5th chapter, and read just a minute. It says, John 5:1, after this there was a feast of the Jews. So you know John chapter 4 was. It was Christ at the well with the woman, and the two were bringing one another to an understanding of one another and bringing it into oneness. And so after this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. So it says, now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude, in these, meaning in these porches, these 5 porches, laid a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the move of the water. And so we see at the end of the ages, which is what that woman and Jesus typed at the well, they were coming to a oneness to where they mixed together and became one. And the great whore, which the woman was, 5 husbands, the one she's with now wasn't hers. The great whore becomes the great queen. She becomes the great woman of cleanliness. She brings on a whole new life form in life at the well. And so we see after that there comes this movement of the water. And so there at Jerusalem, it was a sheep market, and there was a pool next to it. And of course, I'm not going to get into the sheep market at all today, but we know what the sheep market is. It is people. In symbolics, it is people, and which is called in the Hebrew tongue, there was a pool next to the sheep market. In the Hebrew tongue, it was called Bethesda, having 5 porches. Inside these 5 porches, I think we could all probably name the 5 porches. See, taste, feel, smell, and hear. These people were laying in those 5 porches. That's what it says. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk. People that are blind, halt, withered, waiting for the move of the water. What were they waiting on? For the aquatic world to be touched by something. Now, we see at the end of the Pisces, the church age cycle, humanity is still laying within those 5 porches. I mean, look at them. That's the dominant thing in their life. They can't see past see, taste, feel, smell, and hear. They can't go into the other senses. It seems like they can't go into the spirit. It seems like they can't. They're trapped in what they see, taste, feel, smell, and hear, and it's made them impotent. They're not effective, and they were in these 5 porches, and they were blind, halt, withered, waiting for the move of the water. So we see them still laying in these 5 porches. That's what is dominant in the earth right now. See, taste, feel, smell, hear are the porches that we seem to lay in all the time and can't get past them to receive our healing, to get out of our disease. That's what it said, that many were there around the pool, laying on the porches, and were diseased. And so we can't seem to get out of those 5 porches or get out of our disease and get into the pool that's being stirred, the aquatic world that's being stirred by angels. So, but that's the way it is. You know, we take on diseases, all sorts of diseases, and all the word disease is, if you break it up, it's dis-ease. In other words, you don't feel at ease. If you feel uncomfortable and you don't feel at ease in your revelation and in your understanding, you're packing disease. You have a disease. And that disease is a whole lot worse than all the little diseases you might pick up coming down through a physical world. When you get into the spiritual disease, that's a bad thing. That's a rough thing. So we see this, and we know that the cycle of angels, we know that there was 7 angels that came in their season and touched the people down through 7 church ages, bringing a movement of the aquatic world. Every time Paul, look at the movement. Irenaeus, Martin, look at the movement. Columba, Luther, Wesley, William Branham, every time they were angels. That's what the scripture calls them, messengers, angels that moved into the earth. And in moving into the earth, they brought on great change in the aquatic world, in the world of water, in the world of humanity. And so they came in their season, they touched the people heard, they changed, they moved to something greater. They moved to a greater message, a greater understanding, and bringing a movement of the aquatic world, the water, and each time it brought a millennial reign through a message from the angel. So the angel would bring a message to the people. He would touch the water, the people, and when he would touch the people, there would be a change in the people and a message that would bring a people to a greater light, and they would rest in that light until that season was over. And then an angel would come and touch the water again, and we read about this, and each time it brought a millennial reign or a reign of rest through their message from the angel. Those who stepped into the movement first, we'll read it here. Those that stepped into the movement first received great understanding, received healing, got out of their dis-ease and moved into understanding. And they had spiritual healing, and it brought on a new age of rest in Christ, in humanity. And they rested in Paul's message, and then they rested in Irenaeus, and they rested in right on down through to William Branham. They rested in those messages, in justification, in sanctification, in the restoration of the gifts, in the full word, and on into the opening of the seals. Every time an angel touched the water, then the first ones in the movement got great ease and great rest, and their disease was moved away, and they come to their understanding for their day. So let's look a little bit further here. In John 5 and verse 4, it says, "For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool, and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease they had." So however they were diseased, if you want to call it that, however they were diseased, there was a message that brought them to rest or put them in ease again. And so we see this it was angels, and it was only a seasonal thing. And then they had to sit and wait and wait and wait and wait. And then the angel would show up, touch the waters, and the first ones in, healed. This cycle of angels held a power to help the people for a season. Luther helped them with justification, and for a season it was good. And then John Wesley brought sanctification for a season which was good. And then Pentecost brought the restoration of the gifts for a season which was good. William Branham brought on the full word for a season, and it was good. And then the opening of the seals came, and it changed everything. And so we see that the cycle of angels held a power to help the people for a season that they were in at the time, whatever season they were in. And then there was another waiting period. And at the time that Jesus entered, the area, at the time Jesus entered that area where the 5 porches were, or at the time that Jesus entered into humanity, that's those 5 porches: see, taste, feel, smell, and hear. It's the way we contact, connect with everything. You have to move beyond those into memory, reason, affection, and imagination, and spiritual mind to get out of those 5 porches and come to an easement. You know what an easement is? An easement is a way through. Mm-hmm. Someone else owns the property, and you got property behind, and you got no way in. Then there has to be an easement set up for you that you can get through that. And that's what went on during those church ages. That property, there was no title deed. It was laying in the hands of the Spirit, but he made an easement. Jesus Christ was an easement to go through the property and the processes of those wilderness ages and get to your own property. Get to your own place, to your own standing. So we see this. Now this cycle, when Jesus entered the area of the 5 porches, this person, had waited 4 decades, 38 years, 4 decades. He had laid there and waited, hoping to get into the movement of the aquatic world when the angels touched the water. So Jesus came in there. He had waited 4 decades, 40 years, to receive healing and understanding. When the last angel in the church ages cycle finished, we waited 4 decades. 40 years we waited from 63 to 2002 before the angel began to move again, before Christ himself got out of that cycle and out of the church ages and out of the wilderness and out of all those things. We waited 4 decades to receive this angelic power and this angelic understanding and this new mix of resurrection, even though it was on the scene at the opening of the seals. We were caught up, impotent, blind, withered, crippled in every way, and couldn't get out of the 5 porches of see, taste, feel, smell, and hear. And we went through 4 decades of trying to get out of those things into a real spiritual world where our disease was healed, and we come to a greater understanding, that angelic power through humanity, opening us up into a new season of resurrection. So when Jesus stepped on the scene, he broke the cycle. Now look, William Branham told us at the opening of the seals, that was Jesus stepping back on the scene to break the cycle. You know, I got a question from a guy just the other day. He said, you make it sound like Moses and Elijah coming on the scene. that they've already come, and that was Jesus at the opening of the seals. And I said, you understand me, right? Yes, you got it. That was Christ coming back into the earth in new angelic type powers and understanding, and that was Moses and Elijah. So he wrote back and he said, you won't find anywhere in the scripture or in William Branham's message where the sixth seal is on the earth until Moses and Elijah come back and break the sixth seal open and bring all the judgment into the earth. So I thought, well, okay.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. So I went over to the sixth seal. William Branham standing behind the pulpit, and he said, who opened this sixth seal for us? He said, Moses and Elijah, prophets, opened this sixth seal. Now notice that word opened, it had an ED on the end of it.
Yeah.
Which means it has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Moses and Elijah was already in the earth. They were standing behind the pulpit, opening up those six seals in William Branham, a redeemed body, opening up those six seals, Jesus Christ himself back in earth again. So I wrote that down for my brother. And then I said, oh, by the way, you might want to go over to I Indict This Generation for the Second Crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and you will find where William Branham said Jesus Christ was the Lamb, the sixth seal, walking in the earth again. So I said, not only was Jesus the sixth seal walking in the earth again, but the word again means it was here before. It's here again. So I said, now I can give you 3 places where Moses and Elijah have not yet done their miraculous appearing that we think about and that we taught for so long. I said, I can give you 3 places where they already been here. So, but people constantly want to hold on to those 5 porches. I got to see it, taste, feel, smell, hear. I got to have these things, and it makes them blind, impotent. It keeps them from moving out of their disease into a great understanding. So Jesus broke this old cycle of messengers in an angelic power. What the angel was doing in a certain season, here come a man. And in humanity, he exercised those angelic powers. A new day had stepped on the scene. The cycle had been broken. He broke the sin cycle. Jesus broke the cycle of messengers, angels coming. He broke the cycle of messengers in an angelic power and brought that power into humanity. The angelic and the human natures reflexing, working together, becoming one, bringing out of humanity, bringing out of us the attributes, and bringing to the movement a new cycle altogether, and that is that humanity and human beings would operate under an angelic power and have the same powers and understanding that stirred the water, that stirred the aquatic world. It's you and I, it's not angels flying around somewhere, it's you and I that are stirring the aquatic world now. We have the power of angels within us and the atmosphere, and we're stirring things up, and we're stirring up a mix and it's coming from humanity into humanity and bringing it to a oneness with these great things. And now you notice Jesus broke the cycle of messengers. He broke the cycle of the aquatic water. He broke the angelic and the human natures and brought them together and made them one, bringing to the movement a new cycle altogether. And then you notice he broke the old angelic cycle. He broke the old Sabbath cycle. If you've read St. John 5, I'm sure you've read it before. If you haven't, you ought to. Remember how that right away Jesus told the man, you've been laying there 4 decades. The transition's over. You don't need to be impotent anymore. You don't need to be blind anymore. You need to get up, take up your bed, and walk. When someone's up walking, they're not laying down. They're not dead. When you're up walking, that's a resurrection. Jesus said, get up, resurrect yourself, pick up your bed, and walk. So the man got up, picked up his bed, and started walking. And right away, all the Pharisees said, you can't do that. Who told you that you could carry that bed on the Sabbath day? Jesus broke all the Sabbath rules, told this man not to pay any attention to the fact that it's the Sabbath day. Get your bed and get up and go. Well, that's where we're at. We're not in any more millennial days. We're not in any more angelic message days. We're not in justification for a while, then sanctification for a while, and then on and on and on. We are in a whole new day, and the Sabbath rules and all of the things that it brings to us, that we try to live right and walk right and be right and talk right, all those things mean absolutely nothing. They brought you to the 5 porches. They brought you to impotence. And now Jesus has broke the Sabbath. He broke the sin cycle. Listen to what, I'm not going to go back and read it all. Just read your 5th chapter of St. John. He broke the sin cycle, telling this man, take up his bed and walk. What was Jesus telling this man when he looked at him and said, take up your bed and walk? What was he telling him? He was telling him, pay no attention to the Pharisees and the priests and the Sadducees, else a worse thing will come upon you. That's what he told him. He said, go and sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you. Or go and pay absolutely no attention to what they're trying to get you to do, because that's missing the mark. Mm-hmm. That's sin. Pay no attention to them. Pay no attention to the whole Sabbath and everything else. Take up that bed and walk. And when Jesus told them that, he said, or else a worse thing would come upon you. You say, well, yeah, that would be the judgment of the Lord. No, that would be vibration. Mm-hmm. The Lord, the Spirit doesn't have to judge something. The Spirit doesn't have to bring on disease, and it doesn't have to bring on fire and consume everybody. The Spirit doesn't have to do any of that. There is vibration in the universe, and the vibration that you break into, it will bring things on. Jesus broke that old cycle. He broke the sin cycle. He told the man, don't follow their rules and regulations anymore. Take up your bed and walk. Don't worry about another angel coming to the pool and stirring the water anymore. Don't lay here anymore. Don't lay here in your impotence. Rise up and walk. This is a new day. This is a new walk. There are no more angels coming. I am the angel. That's what Jesus was telling this man. And he said, don't pay any attention to the priest, else a worse thing come upon you. You bring the vibrations yourself into your body. Mm-hmm. Don Parnell can't get mad enough at you or angry enough at you to bring on judgment on your body. I can't do it. You can't either. Excuse me. But what we can do is fall under that vibration of disease. Mm-hmm. And if you fall under that vibration of disease, you will fall into disease, and there will be disease, problems, sicknesses, tumors, on and on and on, that will move into your body because of the worry and the disease and the discomfort that you carry around. I brought this out, and one of the brethren brought this up to me and said, okay, I understand that. You bring the vibrations yourself to your body. What about you, Brother Parnell, in the last 3.5 years? You brought on 2 cancers, infection, and then you turned around and had 3 hernias, and then you turned around and had a lump. They had to check for cancer again. You had things removed from your body. You had all these things going on in 3.5 years. It looked like you were going to die. We wondered if you were going to die. So how come all of that came on you? Well, I can tell you exactly how come all that came on to me, because I wasn't willing to release in my heart and mind what took place in 2016. When everything began to fall apart, so to speak. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me now, and I got no dis-ease over it at all. But for a long time, I held anger in my heart at the way people walked away who were supposed to be my friends. If I did have something going on in my life, which I didn't, but if I did, they should have been the first to have been right there to help me, to love me, to pull closer together, to do all these things. And I had some terrible vibration going on in my body. They didn't judge me. They didn't walk away and go out there and say, Don Parnell's in trouble now, and the judgment of the Lord's going to come on him, and this prophecy's going to come to pass, and he's going to be... No, it was my vibration. It was my vibration of feeling rejected and hurt and unloved and angry, and it brought dis-ease, and it brought all these things upon me. And it's just been, I would say, in the last 6 months that I personally got out from under this dis-ease, and I got to where I could cope with what happened, and I could go right on loving the people that it happened with, and I could keep moving right on, and I was still picking up revelation. I was still picking up understanding. I was still bringing things that were, and those things were helping me catch and overcome the vibration that was trying to stay in me, and I slow but sure washed it away. And all of that is done now. I've got no cancer. I've got no tumor. I've got no hernias. I've got no lumps. I've got nothing wrong with me. It was all a vibrational thing that I allowed into my life by taking on those vibrations in me. Nobody did it but me, taking on my vibrations of anger and my vibrations of hate and my vibration. All of these vibrations, I took them on myself, and it brought all this on. I'm through it. I'm past it. I'm healed. But if something happens to you, don't worry about somebody else did that to you. Don't worry about, it's the judgment of the Lord upon you. Don't worry about any of those things. Go in and talk to yourself. Take a good look at what you're carrying that's bringing those vibrations on you, that's holding you in that frequency of dis-ease. It happens to people all the time. But Jesus broke this sin cycle. You bring vibrations into your body. Jesus showed how that cycle can be broken. And St. John 5 and verse 5. And a certain man was there. He walked into the porches. Jesus, 4 decades had passed. Angels had come down through 7 church ages, touched the water, healed people. Movements went on for a season. And then the next one until we got to the opening of the seals. And the cyclical thing changed. And it was 4 decades later, Jesus walks in to humanity, into the porches. He shows something greater is happening, and he begins to bring us to where we're no longer in dis-ease and in disarray. And there was a certain man there when Jesus walked in, which had an infirmity, 38 years, 4 decades. When Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had been now a long time in that transition, trying to get into that water, he saith unto him, you want to be made whole? And you can see the man. I can see him laying there. You want to be made whole? And the impotent man answered Jesus back. Said, Sir, listen to him. I have no man when the water's troubled to put me in the pool. Oh, isn't that what we want so much? Some man to come that we can put all of our trust in, and he cast us into the pool. Hallelujah, we've been saved. We've been sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost. I have no man to put me in the pool when the water's troubled. It had come down to a time there were no more men coming. There were no more. The pool was not going to be stirred anymore. The transition was over. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. Notice, when the cycle changed, the healing power of the angelic movement moved into humanity. The man had been laying there wanting a man to put him in the pool, and there was no angelic power within a man to do it. So now when the cycle changed, the healing power of the angelic movement was in humanity. Jesus was the transition, the transformation to bring all that aquatic world from the water in healing and step into the next movement. What is the next movement after water? Air. You know that. You go from the water into the air, and the fire, the explosion, and the air brings you go into that air and then come back into the earth. We've gone through all that. So here he is. The transformation was to bring healing, but no man was there to do it for him and step into the next movement. Jesus was telling the man, stop thinking about the water. Stop thinking about the aquatic world that you're in. Stop being trapped within these 5 porches of see, taste, feel, smell, and hear, and rise up. Get up. Come up into the air. And when you come up into the air, when you rise up and get up into the air, into the new movement of humanity and angels together, you need to look at me now. And I'm telling you, you and I together have a power within us that we can take away your disease. We can get rid of your dis-ease and your disarray. And we can bring you, rise you up, and just forget about all the rules and regulations. Pick that bed up and walk away and praise the Lord in you for what is happening. In you is the frequency. It's not in that pool. It's not in that water. And when Jesus brought that to the man, Jesus said unto him, 5 and 8, rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately he was made whole, and took up his bed and walked. And on the same day was the Sabbath. Absolutely. When you come out of your disease the same day, there's a Sabbath for you. There's a rest for you on the same day. And when you begin to rest, everybody else is going to say, you ain't supposed to rest that way. You're not supposed to wear that. You can't rest in that. You're not supposed to act. You can't talk that way. No. You can't rest that way. What are you doing carrying that bed? What are you doing acting like you know something? Who you think you are bringing on this intellect? That's all your gospel is, a bunch of intellect. You can't rest where you say you're resting. So who told you that you could rest that way? That's what you get all the time. People tell it. Who told you you could do that? Well, you need to understand. I ran into this angelic power that was beyond anything in that pool, and it was in a human being. And it was in me, and we connected, and I came to a rest. I came to an understanding. Immediately, he rose up, took up his bed, and it was a great Sabbath. It was a Sabbath day. We are in this new cycle. We're in the angelic power is in humanity now. It's not angels floating down and getting into a pool and stirring the water. The angelic power is not in the 7 church ages and in that cycle anymore. The angelic power is in humanity. It's in every single one of us. So we're in this new cycle wherein the angelic power is now in humanity. Jesus opened that door to us at the opening of the seals. He opened that door to us. And we laid there in our impotency of the 5 porches for 4 decades. We laid there, waiting for a man to help us into the angelic movement that touches and heals humanity. We've come there now. There's come a man. And he's brought the angelic movement into the human body, into the humanity. And that man is Christ Jesus. And he's brought it to us, the angelic movement that touches and heals humanity. That's what I was waiting for. 4 decades I've been here. We are past the rules, the regulations, the Sabbaths, and all those things of the old cycles, things that we're supposed to keep. And when you don't keep them, it brings condemnation. And when condemnation comes, it brings vibrations into your body, which causes dis-ease. It causes all sorts of things to take place. This is the stirring of the aquatic world in another way. Angels directly dropping into the pool for 7 church ages. But now it's another way. It's in every one of us. It's an angelic atmosphere and movement that has impressed and embedded itself. It has come out of our very attributes, and we now have that power to heal dis-ease, to heal discomfort, to heal disarray. We have that power within us now. That aquatic world carries us into the present presence of the meeting in the air. When we match up angelic power and authority with humanity. How long is this meeting in the air, Brother Parnell? I read where Paul talked about it in Thessalonians 4 and in Thessalonians 1, 2 Thessalonians 1. And I read about all these things. How long is it supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to go into the air, do a crowning, come back and live in the earth and live in this great utopia? Isn't this supposed to be what happens? Well, how long is the meeting in the air? Well, let me say this. We're not going to fly up in the atmospheric heaven somewhere. You're not going to go up. There's not a meeting in that air. It's not that meeting. This is the meeting in the air sign. We came out of Pisces, which was a water sign, aquatic sign, angels touching and moving, revivals and everything else. But now we've come out of that aquatic water sign and we moved into Aquarius, which is an air sign that carries all of that aquatic understanding with it. And the Aquarian man is pouring out the waters of life into the earth and having great power in both air and water. Having great power that's moving among us in both humanity and angel. It's come to being one. The Aquarian age, wherein the aquatic world is being touched as the spiritual waters are bringing life to the little fishes. You remember pouring the water out? The little fishes were laying there in the water turned upside down, and when they poured that water in, the fishes came to life. And so we see this going on all around us. William Branham showed the breaking into that when he was sitting out there on the lake with the brother, and the brother caught a fish and it was too small to do anything with, and he jerked the guts out of it and threw the fish back in the water, and it laid there and floated upside down in the water, floating around the boat. And the Holy Spirit dealt with William Branham, called for something on the inside, and he stood up and said, "Little fishy, I give you back your life." Bang, away it went. Guts pulled out of it and everything. Well, that's about where we were for 4 decades. Guts pulled out of us in every way, dead, turned upside down, floating in the water. And then an angel opened the door to bring life back in to the body at the opening of those seals. And we caught that. We have an understanding. This is the age of the mind of Christ. The highest intelligence above the eyes. An intelligence that goes beyond, don't get too afraid of this, an intelligence that goes beyond the prophets. The eyes is a prophet. We have now moved into an intelligence that goes beyond the prophets.
I love it when you get in trouble.
This age of the mind of Christ, the highest intelligence above the eyes, above the prophets, and this age is approximately, how long are we going to stay in this air, this meeting in the air, Brother Parnell? How long is Aquarius and Gemini and Libra going to kind of dominate the situation and bring new feelings into the earth? And how long are we going to stay in that cloud? And you are in the cloud, whether you know it or not. The cloud didn't stay up there on Sunset Mountain. The cloud came into the earth, and you are that cloud, and you are in it, walking around. How long do we stay in that cloud, Brother Parnell? How long is this going to take? This age, above the eyes, into the mind of Christ and intelligence, is approximately 2,400 years long. So don't get so anxious about, we got to get out of this. We got to do something else. You ain't going nowhere. Keep your shoes on. Get yourself dressed. Drink your coffee. Take it easy. Do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day and 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now. If you live 200 years, keep going. You're not going anywhere. Just keep going in the spiritual mind of Christ, rolling in all the experiences of the meeting in the air. And when the meeting in the air finishes up, we'll go back to earth. We'll go back to Capricorn, and we'll be set up in the earth. And the earth will be set up in a way that through that 2,400 years, we will have brought the earth to harmony. That's what this is about. This is the age of the mind of Christ, the highest intelligence above the eyes, and this age is approximately 2,400 years of taking on the mind of Christ in the earth before stepping into Capricorn. Aquarius is to bring the earth to perfect harmony in all dimensions, where we can relate and move through the dimensions at ease. We won't have any diseases causing us to not be able to move through the dimensions. And we will move through the dimensions. Aquarius is to bring the earth to perfect harmony in all dimensions and give us our earthly walk in Capricorn. So you know that Capricorn is an earth sign. Aquarius is an air sign, and Pisces was a water sign. And Aquarius carries all the attributes of Pisces in it. The Aquarian man, the water bearer, the man carrying the pitcher of water, all of those things is in the Aquarian age, and it brings water, air, and earth together and makes us one in the mind of Christ, in harmony, bringing things about in the earth. Notice, immediately following the move out of disease, this man was laying there and had a disease. Brother Branham said, I don't know what kind of, I was reading what he said about the 5th chapter. He said, I don't know for sure what kind of disease this man had. But he said, the problem was he couldn't walk right. Well, yeah, that's a pretty bad disease. And we have taken this Bible, we have taken these thoughts, we've taken all of these things that have brought us up to this age, and we have made crutches out of it because we can't walk right. or we couldn't walk right. We're walking right now. And there was a man in a brown suit helping, because William Branham raised up above the tent, and now he wasn't in the tent anymore, or he wasn't in his flesh anymore. And he said, I watched and I noticed there was a man in a brown suit, a fine gentleman, brown being flesh, a fine gentleman. And he said he was escorting people and helping them into the little room where the pillar of fire was. Here we are. After everything takes place, we are the ones in the age, in the aquatic earth, bringing on this fine gentleman with understanding that's helping people into the little room where the pillar of fire is. And there in that little room, he said, I watched, and he said they came out the other side, and he said they walked in with crutches, they went in with wheelchairs, they couldn't walk right. And Brother Branham said, that's the problem with this guy at the pool. Said he just didn't have a terrible disease, but he just couldn't walk right. And that's where we were at for 4 decades. Not a terrible disease, certainly further along than where we were in the church age, but we just couldn't walk quite right. And we ran into this gentleman, this angelic spirit that came in and began to move us into the little room. And in the little room, the pillar of fire took care of it, because he said they came out on the other side and they were pushing their wheelchairs. They came out on the other side, and he said they were throwing their crutches down and walking away. And he said they were healed, and that's where we are at in this age. We have come out of the pools. We've come out of the church ages. We've come out of the angelic seasoning, and we've moved into the real thing. And we've moved into the little room, and we understand who we are. Notice immediately following the move out of disease, Jesus began to deal directly with the multitudes of the people. Read St. John 6. Immediately. He wasn't dealing with priests and arguing with them anymore. He wasn't fussing with the Pharisees and everything else, but Jesus moved into dealing directly with the people, the multitudes of people. The Spirit feeding them from its hand. Jesus took the 5 fish and the 2 loaves, and he began to deal with the people. 5,000 men, which means there was probably, if each family, if each man was married, then there was 10,000. And if each man had a child, there was 15,000. You could go on and on and on. He probably fed 15 or 20,000 people with 5 fishes and 2 loaves, because the Spirit began to create in this new age, in this new understanding. It began to feed us and take care of us and give us and deal with us directly with the multitudes of people. The Spirit feeding them from its hand and eating the fish and bread and dining. It's a great wedding supper. And we're eating away. Christ is the movement today in humanity. Christ is the movement today in humanity. Humanity has become Christ with all the attributes of heaven and earth, or all the attributes of angel and human. And here we are, and we're doing these things. Christ is the movement today in humanity with the angelic power to heal the multitudes and their hunger. Jesus said, Philip, what are we going to do? Look at them all. Where can we go buy enough food? Philip said, Lord, I don't think there's any place we can buy enough food for this. You can't buy this. This is without price. And Jesus said, one come and said, I found a little boy over here. He's got a few fishes and loaves in his lunchbox. Well, we don't think that'll do it. And Jesus said, yeah, There's the brand new age raising up. It don't look like much. It's just a little boy. It don't have much power. It's walking in the midst of all of these things. But what it has in it is enough to feed the people. Give me those fishes and bread. And Jesus began to take that little boy's attributes that were his and begin to break up into a new age and feed thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. That's the age we're in now. We are that little boy that took that impotent man, Samson, and took him by the hand and led him between the pillars of that great Philistine temple, and put his hands on the two pillars. That little boy took what he had, his eyesight, his attribute, his understanding, and led that blind, impotent, poor prophet who had come through the ages of angelic powers, moving on him in a season, breaking things down, killing thousands, ripping up gates, doing everything, and now he was blind, impotent, and laying in the five porches. And here come the little boy and took him by the hand, led him to the pillars, and broke all of those things down. Those two pillars, led him in between them, in between humanity and angel, and put his hand on both of them and became one, and broke down that middle wall of partition and tore down all of those old temples and gave delivery to Israel. This is the little boy with the fishes. This is the little boy leading the prophet now. Oh, no, Brother Parnell. Prophets come to lead people. This is the little boy leading the prophet now. That's what's going on. Matthew 14 and 22. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship. This is St. John 6, but I'm going over to Matthew 14. It's the same situation. Matthew's writing about it rather than John. And so after they were finished feeding, then Jesus straightway constrained his disciples to get into a ship. Go down there. There's a ship down there on the lake, on the sea. I want you to go get in it. And to go before him to the other side. You're going to cross over. This has been a great day. We've come through all of this great feeding. We've come through all of this great cycle. It's now ending. We've fed the fishes and the loaves to the people. We've done the angelic powers at the pool. We've moved all of these things. We've come through the 4 decades. And now it's time for you to cross over to the other side. And Jesus said, go get in the ship, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain, apart, not with the disciples, not with the multitudes anymore. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea. Now you know what the aquatic world is. It is people. So the disciples got into that ship, and in the midst, there's a crossing over to the other side. While the disciples were in this ship, Jesus was not in the ship with them. And so the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. So now we find two things going on with the disciples in the ship while they're crossing through the veil, going to the other side, which is where you and I are at. There's two things going on, wind and water, air and water. And here we are sitting in the air sign, and we're stirring up the aquatic world, the water world, and we're stirring them up, and we're bringing them to chaos. And it's chaos all across the earth. Everything from pandemics to wars to all kinds of scientific things and all kinds of political things. Everything that's going on, and we're looking at it and watching it. And it's air and water being mixed together, and it's bringing on this great tumultuous time while we're crossing the veil. And the ship was now in the midst of the sea, being tossed with the water and the wind. And then it says, and in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. So where had Jesus moved to? He had moved into the people. The sea is the people, the water, the aquatic world. He wasn't in the ship anymore. He wasn't sitting with the disciples anymore. He was in the people. And you know, every time, I'm going to tell you this, every time you find your leadership going somewhere without Christ anointing and in the midst, you're going to find Christ didn't leave. He didn't go anywhere. He was still right there walking in the people. And the people, when leadership, when ministries, when all of these things don't take you in the right direction, people will raise up. Take a look at what's going on today, at all of these insurrections and all of this raising up and all of these things that are happening. You know why it's happening? Because the political leadership and the religious leadership are not taking the people in the right direction. They're taking them in a wrong direction, and that causes the waves to get real tumultuous, the people to get real upset and real angry, and it causes the wind to begin to blow. It causes the air sign, and it causes the water sign, which is the Aquarian water bearer. It causes a whole lot of chaos to go on. And it was in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. Now I want to say this. You've probably read that several times, and you've thought to yourself, what in the world do you mean the fourth watch of the night? Well, Israel had two 12-hour time frames. That's the way they were set up. And one time frame was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that was called the day watch. And then the watchmen in the tower, they would switch. You'd have a day watcher, and then you'd switch, and you'd have a night watch. And the night watch was from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, but the day watch was split up into 3 hours apiece, and the night watch was split up into 3 hours apiece, which gave you, in a matter of 24 hours in Israel, there was 8 watches. And each watch was 3 hours long. So in the night watch, they get into the ship. It's about 6 p.m. And they're entering into the night watch. They get on the ship. The evening comes. Jesus goes to the mountain. They get on the ship. They get out into the sea. And it goes through the first watch from 6 to 9. And it goes through the second watch from 9 to 12. And it goes through the third watch from 12 to 3 a.m. And they get into the fourth watch somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., which is in early morning. Jesus, the storm is just tumultuous and raging, and Jesus comes walking in the people on the water in the last watch of the night. Now, let me explain something to you. It was the fourth watch of the night. First watch, 6 p.m. Second watch, 9 p.m. Third watch, 12 a.m. And fourth watch, 3 a.m. And somewhere between 3 and 6, which brings on the day again, this means it was the last watch of the night. And so we see the church ages, and we see the seventh church age, the Laodicean church age, was the last watch of the night. And in the last watch, Laodicea, everything begins to happen. Everything begins to change. The tumultuous, everything begins to raise up. We move into the wind, the air sign, and it's tumultuous and blowing, and we move out of the water, And so we see all of these things happening all around us. The church ages were the night watch, and in the last watch, Laodicea, everything began to fall apart. The church began to die. The 7 sons were gone. They died, and now the woman's dead. The church is dead. And we've moved into another cycle altogether. So we see that it was, what was going on there was a picture of the ending of the church age cycle. In the last watch, early in the morning, almost the break of day. And you know what they say? During that time of the dawning, it's the darkest of all the night, just before the day breaks. So William Branham, in the 4th watch, or the 7th church age, the seals open, opening up the connection between heaven and earth, bringing together water and air, brought the connection. And it was at the time that we were crossing through a veil to the other side. And it's at a time that we were breaking all these dimensions open. The seals open, opening up the connection between heaven and earth, between the carnal and the spiritual mind, between humanity and angelic powers. The sea, the aquatic powers of humanity began to be tossed with waves, water, and with strong winds, air. The two became one and brought on the greatest chaos. Storms raging, rains and wind and everything happening all around them. It was the movement from water to air. And when you're crossing the veil and going to the other side, you're in the midst of that movement. You're in the midst of that change, and hell is everywhere. But don't be afraid. It looked to be a terrible time. It looked to be a horrible time. It looked to be that the disciples had come to their fate. It looked to be the ship was going to sink. It looked to be that there's no way we were going to reach the other side from the water into the air. And both of those, water and air, the two ages, were wrestling one with another. And here we were going through that for a long period of time, trying to hold on to the old age and all of its rules and regulations. And the waves of the people was raising up saying, I don't want that, I don't want that, I can't stand that. And it was chaotic, and the wind was trying to come in, the air was trying to come in, and in that crossing over was a terrible, tumultuous time. It looked to be a terrible time. Have you felt it? If you haven't felt it, I'll tell you why. You're still stuck in the 5 porches. You're still impotent. And you're still blind, halt, and lame. And you're whining around, see, taste, feel, smell, and hear. That's why you haven't felt it. But we have moved on. We've moved on from all that. The aquatic waters of humanity, stirring, raging, the wind, the air sign, bringing the shout, the voice, the trumpet, breaking the veil so we can walk to the other side. It was the movement from water to air. And when you're crossing over, it feels like a millennium. It feels like God knows how long. But it's just a little space of time. Matthew 14:26. And when the disciples saw him, Jesus, walking on the sea, Jesus didn't go anywhere. He was still in the people. I will be with you always. He didn't go anywhere. They saw him walking on the sea. Now listen, at first, They didn't know it was Jesus. They didn't think it was Jesus. Just like you and I. When all of this first started breaking, and we broke over into the Aquarian age, and all of this wind and rage and water, and people raising up and burning cities and doing everything else, and we were watching it, and the politics going into more corrupt and corrupt and corrupt all the time, and we're watching all of it. When the disciples saw him in the midst of the people, in the midst of the water, in the midst of the wind, when the disciples saw him walking there, they were troubled. Yeah, a lot of us were. Saying, it is a spirit. Yeah. You know that old duality thing? Oh, that's a spirit. That's not of the Lord. That's a spirit. Yeah, the spirit brought that on, an evil spirit. They were troubled, saying, it is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. Looking at this Jesus, looking at this man who had just fed 15 or 20,000 people, who had just brought the end of a cycle to sin, the end of a cycle to church-age messengers, the end of all these things, had just broke the opening of the seals, and then boom, here we came, and all of this chaos starts breaking, and we start thinking, this is evil spirits, this is horrible. When is Jesus going to come back to the earth? Well, he never left it. He's still in the people. Mm-hmm. And so they were troubled, saying it's a spirit, and they cried out with fear. But straightway, in other words, immediately, Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. I am the one that told you to get in that ship. I am the one that told you to leave without me. I am the one that told you to cross over this veil without me. I'm the one that told you all of this. Be of good cheer. I put you into this. I guided you right into this horrible storm. I brought on these winds and this wave. I am the one, and I am walking in the midst of the people, and all these things that the people are doing are to bring you to your senses, break the veil, step into the air sign, and walk to the other side, or get to the other side. Jesus said, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. It looked to be a terrible time, a period wherein aquatic humanity was out of control, and chaos and death were certain. They thought it was an evil spirit causing this great tumult. And I guarantee you this morning, in every pulpit across America, and yesterday in almost every pulpit across the world, that's exactly what they're saying. Evil is moving among us. This is the most chaotic time of all. We're ready to move to the other side and live in immortal bodies and have a utopia, and right before is the darkest time of the night, and evil spirits are lurking among us. It's Halloween. It is, isn't it? It's Halloween.
Yes, it is.
This is the 31st. Happy Halloween. It's a terrible time. All of these devils and demons are everywhere. They thought it was an evil spirit causing this great tumult, when they was Jesus in the midst of it. It's not an evil spirit. It's Jesus Christ in the midst of all of it. You and I, the people, we are bringing this on because we want a change, and we want on the other side. We want to step out of Pisces completely and get into the air sign. They thought it was evil, great tumult, but it was the Spirit walking in the midst of the water, humanity. And they were afraid. Listen to me. It's not an evil spirit. But Brother Parnell, they shot people, young men, Rittenhouse, shooting people in Wisconsin, killing them. I seen where a judge said they were getting ready to have his trial. You remember the boy in Wisconsin that he had to shoot a couple of people and kill them because they were going to kill him? And so the defense came in, and right away they said these were victims. And the judge set up, rapped a gavel, and said, nobody in my courtroom will call these two men that were shot and killed victims. They were rioters, they were looters, and they were burners. And he said, that's what they will be called. And I thought, wow, this boy, the Lord's protecting him. He's going to make it through all the trouble. So here we are. It looked to be a terrible time. It is Jesus in the midst of the change. Christ is bringing all of this on. Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid. Don't be afraid of any of this. This is Jesus raising the people into a higher consciousness, into a higher level. And we must bring on chaos that will break down the old system and carry us through the veil to the other side. Matthew 14:28. And Peter answered him, here's Jesus in the midst of the people. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it's you, bid me come unto thee on the water. Boy, isn't that the way people are? And he said, come. And when Peter got permission, and when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, boisterous, that air sign, when you look at it, when it first comes in, and Saturn and Uranus is not taken over yet, and Neptune's not into the scene yet, and the spirituality is not quite moved in, you look at the air sign and it's boisterous. And it is, Saturn eats their own children. They go into all kinds of things. So he gets out on the water. He's crossing through the veil. He's standing in the midst of all the chaos. And as he steps out there, he walks on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink. Listen to me, leadership. When you step into the midst of the people and you're not in your hierarchy anymore and you're not above everybody else, you better know where you're walking. You better understand that everything people are doing is Christ in some form. And you better understand and you better be able to reconcile that back within yourself, or you're going to sink. You're going to sink beneath the waves, and you're going to wonder what in the world is going on and what's happening for you. So Peter did that. He got afraid. It got boisterous. He was afraid, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou little faith, wherefore do you doubt? And I see the leadership doing exactly that. Not in this movement, but across the earth, I see them doubting the people, doubting the movement, doubting what's happening, doubting that the Spirit of the Lord is doing it. And here Jesus is standing in the midst of the people, stretches his hand out, says, raises him up as Peter's sinking, raises him up and says, "Oh, you have little faith, why are you doubting? This is me. Don't get afraid." And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. In this age, this is still the issue as to why we can't break the cycles of times, the cycles of impotency, the cycles of angelic powers in a few, not being able to break open the angelic powers in all of humanity. These are all cycles. And why we seem to sink at the moment when we are bringing great change, and we are bringing great change with all of this vibration and with all these things, and while we are seeking to bring great change, we are sinking sometimes. And listen, I'll tell you the reason why. We think we have to ask Jesus to bid us come. We seek permission. can I have permission, Lord? People make me sick with it. If it's the will of the Holy Spirit, yeah, I don't want to get into the permissive will. I'm just like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? How long will you walk around in these boisterous things and beg permission to make a move? You are the Christ. What do you mean ask permission? I'm Christ. Move. I have said for many years now, I don't seek permission to move. I move. And if it doesn't work, I seek forgiveness. I ain't worried about permission. I'm going to do what I need to do. And I'll continue to make the next move. There's no permissive will now. You don't have to seek permission to take a step. Moses, tell your people, stay in line. We're in the wilderness. Don't take a step to the left or to the right. Don't look any other way. Look straight ahead. And if you step left or right, you're going to fail. You're going to do this and that. And we carried all that over here. But when Joshua crossed the other side, the same Spirit told him, take a look. Look at the promised land. Look to the left. Look to the right. Look to the north. Look to the south. Go anywhere you want. Put your footsteps down. It's yours. Joshua didn't have to ask permission for another step. And we are in that place right now. Stop seeking permission from the Holy Spirit to do what you need to do, and just do it.
That's right.
Just do it. Walk out there, hold your head up, and know that you're not going to sink because you are the Christ. So we see this. We're not in a permissive will anymore. We are in the will of an attribute of the Father. Read on through that 5th chapter. Jesus said the Son can do nothing except the Father shows him. So the Son was finished. He can do nothing. We moved into the fatherhood. We moved into a greater day. We moved into greater works. We are now displaying the attribute of the Father. We're in the will or attribute of the Father. What kind of permission do you think you need, Father? You're running the business. You're the head of the family. Who are you going to ask permission for anything? What do you mean ask permission? I'm the father, but I got to ask my children if I can have permission to do this. Oh, honey, can I have permission? I feel like Dan Bongino. Permission for what? Stand up. Stand for yourself. Stand for what you see. Stand for what the Holy Spirit is doing in this day. You are the Holy Spirit, and there's no permission about it. Mm-hmm. You are Him. She is Him. What kind of permission do you think you need when you're the one running the business? You're the one making every move. You're not running from the presence of the Spirit. You are the Spirit. Oh, I find myself running from the presence of the Lord. Well, William Branham preached that in 1964. Good Lord, I would hope that you've come further than that by now. Running from the presence of the Lord. That's not what we're doing now. You are the Spirit made flesh and hold all the powers of the human and angelic atmosphere. You've brought it to one. Jonah, that's who you are. You have been through the aquatic judgment. You know, Jonah, William Branham preached a message running from the presence of the Lord, and then by the time he got to the end of the message, he said, Jonah was the Lord being spit out of the aquatic whale. The fish prepared in the aquatic world to protect Jonah, spit him out, and Jonah became the God walking in earth. Because Nineveh looked at the whale, and the whale was their god. They worshipped it, and their God spit out a prophet to come and tell them what to do. You're that prophet. You are that Jonah. Jonah, you've been through the aquatic judgment, and there was a prepared place for you to keep you alive as you were tossed about in the chaos of an aquatic world. Jonah said, the seaweeds were wrapped about me, and I raised up my voice and cried out from hell. Yeah, that's where we were. We were tossed about in the chaos of the aquatic world. You've been through the seaweeds of hell, and you've resurrected out of it, and you've been spit out onto the land. And you have a purpose in life now. The waters were stirred, and there was a great place prepared for you to protect you through those ages. And we've come out of those ages, come to the other side, stepped out of the water world into the air, and we stood up and we're walking in the earth now, and we are the air sign. Go and bring the world of Nineveh to its awareness and understanding now. That's what Jonah did. You're the God that arose from the sea, from the people, and stepped up into the land with a message, a perfect message of life. Trust our spirit that the judgment is over. Good Lord, stop thinking judgment's good. You already been thrown overboard. You already emptied the ship and it didn't help. And you finally come to the point you said, I'm the problem here. Throw me overboard. And you went into the aquatic world, got into the fish that was prepared for you, and you came through all that hell and you came through all that judgment, and the fish brought you up to shore and opened its mouth and you walked out, and the judgment's over. Oh, Jonah had a lot of little issues that he carried from that other age. All of you going to be destroyed. God's going to kill you all. I'm telling you now, I'm the prophet. Thus said the Lord, you're going to die. Yeah, we had a whole lot of that when we came out of that aquatic world, when we came out of the church age. But that's pretty well all gone from me, at least. I hope it's all gone from you. A perfect message of life. Trust our spirit that the judgment is over. It's already happened. Don't go out there preaching, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Go out there talking and discussing with the people about you're going to live, you're going to live, you're going to live. It's a new day. It's a new understanding. And the Spirit loves you. And his message in the church ages was, you're going to die. But now the message is, it's over. The judgments are finished. You're going to live. Trust our spirit that the judgment's over and you came through it. And Nineveh is safe from all harm. Be of good cheer. This is not an evil spirit. This is Christ. Don't be afraid. We will look at this some more and understand the seas of the aquatic world and what has happened and how the Spirit is moving in the midst of us through the prophets, through the sea of glass, through the sea of crystal, through the sea of forgetfulness, through the Sea of Galilee, through the Dead Sea, through the Mediterranean Sea. All those seas are people. And when you go back and read how the Spirit strove among those seas and done many things, you're going to see how the Spirit is now operating among the people. We will see our tumult and how the angels strove across the seas to bring great change. Daniel said, I was out standing on the great sea, and I saw the four winds of the heavens. You know what those are? Those are the four angels. The angels of life, the angels of death, whatever they're bringing into the earth. Those are the four angels. And Daniel said, I saw them strove across the sea, and I saw four things raise up out of the sea. And he tells all about many things. And we're going to talk on this because we're right in the middle of it now. We're right in the middle of the angelic power stroving among the seas, bringing us to the understanding of the sea of glass, the sea of crystal, the sea of forgetfulness, bringing us an understanding of how those prophets set on those great seas, the Dead Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, the Sea of Galilee, and many other places. And we're going to see how the Spirit is dealing with us in this day. I know it's getting late. This is the stirring of angels in the water of life. This is us taking on a whole new way of life. A whole new power, a whole new authority structure, a whole new cycle in the earth. It's happening all around us. I can see it sitting here in my little sunroom. I like that. I came through all those other buildings and I ended up in the sunroom. It's the rising of the sun. And here we are, and I can see all these things happening all around me, and I just watch it, and I jot down little things, and I say, oh, people might like to hear this. People might like to hear that. And I'm just sitting here basking in the sun and enjoying myself. And I hope you are. We are living in Ohio now. Now, I'm not talking about the state of Ohio. I'm talking about the atmosphere of Ohio. We are living in the upper heavens, in the third heaven, and we are looking at all the things that are completely against all the laws of nature, and how that it is the Spirit moving through all of it to carry us through dimensional change to the other side. What a day. What an hour that we're living. Does anybody have anything you want to say? Or was there anything on there that...
I just want to have you read that while I get the song ready. I've been humming this song all morning. I wonder why. Well, now I know.
We are in a very high frequency with this new day creation of angelic nature mixed with human nature. We are the great I am now. I agree with that, Brother Vincent Dorku. We are the great Spirit. We are the I am.
Mm-hmm.
Don't seek permission. Go. The seraphims were moving among the temple. As Alan's getting the song ready here. The seraphims were moving among the temple. And they came and they touched the tongues of Isaiah, of the people. And the voice of the Lord cried out and said, who shall I send? And Isaiah said, Lord, could I have permission to go? Would you give me permission? I'll go if you give me permission. Who can I send? Here, my Lord, send me. I'm not afraid. I don't have to ask permission. When the Spirit is moving, I want in it. I want on it. I want to be it moving among the people. What a day. What an hour.
What a wonderful day.
Yes. What a wonderful world.
Yeah.
What a wonderful day. Anything else? Go ahead.
We can see waters raging at our feet. We can feel the breath of those surrounding us. We can hear sound of nations rising up. We will not be overtaken.
We will not be overcome.
We can walk down a dark and painful road.
Yes.
We can face every fear of the unknown. We can hear all of us singing out. We will not be
Overpowered. We will not be overcome.
Same power that rose Jesus from the grave.
Same power
that commands the dead to wake lives in us.
lives in us.
Same power that moves mountains when we speak. Same power that can calm the raging sea lives in us.
Lives in us.
Lives in us. Lives in us. Lives in us. Lives
This power is yours. Enjoy it. Don't seek permission. Go in the name of the Lord. In the name of what lays inside you. Go.